So anyway, they were very nice and they laughed. But they did say that they would have a lady call me, that there was a women's auxiliary, which was morphing into Al-Anon, and that they would ask this lady to call me. And they also told me about Mr. Silvers, who was the county thing on alcoholism in the downtown Seattle. So anyway, I went home and forgot about it for a while, but things got worse, and this lady called me again. She said they were having, she was so nice, and she said they were having a meeting on Beacon Hill. And I went up to Beacon Hill, and so I decided, this was another night my husband didn't happen to come home when he was supposed to for dinner. So I found my way up to Beacon Hill and went into this, they were meeting in an old house. And so I went in, and the parlor area on one side, there were a bunch of men in there, and I said, well, I came to find a group, that a lady had called me, and that they were meeting a women's group along with the men's alcohol. And he opens the door and yells up the stairs, "Grace, your pigeon's down here." So anyway, I went upstairs and listened to everything, and thought, oh, well, this is pretty silly. I mean, after all, I've got an education. I should be able to control all this stuff. But they gave me some brochures, and I went home, and my husband happened to have gotten home by that time, so I handed him all the brochures, and he threw them in the fireplace and said, "You are not going to anything like that, and that I won't even hear of it." And of course, my Irish temper and my German stubbornness came up and said, "Nobody can tell me what I can do or can't do, and I'm going to go." And then, of course, I couldn't back down. I had to keep going.
And that was almost 50 years ago, correct?
Right.
And so from that, Jane started working with those first group of women, and as she said, it was just morphing into Al-Anon. They formed the first group because they realized that if the husbands were changing through finding the principles of AA, a program that really helps you discover who you are, be responsible for who you are, and create the life that you want, that the whole household had to change.
The whole household becomes dysfunctional.
And what many people probably don't know, though, is that Jane, as she really got involved in this, started going door to door, doctors, ministers, businesses, trying to find places to hold these Al-Anon groups because it was changing your life. You were seeing other people come in. She was sponsoring other individuals. That one group, she worked with people that grew to 12 groups spread throughout 4 counties, and today it's probably, 40 or 50 groups?
I don't know how many, but plenty.
She was one of the pioneers that got that started.
I think one of the interesting things was that I went for quite a while and didn't really like the program, but felt that I couldn't back down. But this lady was saying one day that she was a good Catholic and that she said her rosary, and that when she got to the part in her rosary that said, "Thy will be done," she realized she was saying, "My will be done. My will be done." And that just struck me, and I was thinking, so the answer is here. It's not the answer I want, but God's telling me something. And after that, I went and began to listen and try working the program.
So that was almost 50 years ago, and then about 40 years ago, so as Jane was became involved in Al-Anon. She and her husband did eventually divorce. He chose that was not for him, and for obvious reasons, the marriage ended. And so by that point in time, Jane was with 3 children, single mom, needing to find a job. What took place there?
Well, I went, my neighbor was a teacher, and I thought that we had moved into another house, and my neighbor was a teacher, and I thought, oh God, I would like to have a job like that, because I could be home with my kids, and I thought, oh, well, I don't have this kind of training, so I better just go to the union, at Taylor's Union, and find a job. So I went to the Taylor's Union and was talking to the union guy and said, do you have any sales I could fill in with and get a steady job back in the trade? And there was a lady there talking about to him about starting a school in Burien called Occupational Skills Center, and they were kind of thinking of setting up a excuse me, type of a trade school just for kids kids going to high school, that they could have an extra curriculum thing. And he was just giving her the runaround, and I said to her that I'd be happy to help her, that I lived in Burien and that I'd been in the trade for a long time, and if I could be any help, I certainly would be. So I went home and forgot about it, and a couple of weeks later I got this call from her, and we talked, and they decided they were going to set up a class in tailoring, and why didn't I apply for it? So I applied, and another interesting about this was that when I was working at Frederick's, there was a young man came in on the sales, and he didn't really know what he was doing. So I would take my 15-minute break and help him because, you know, I just thought I should because he was having a bad time. And it turned out that his father had a tailor shop in Burien, and they were on the board that were hiring people, and they said, hire her.
So your volunteering paid off, and you got the job.
Right, and so I taught tailoring for 5 years at Occupational Skills Center. And I liked teaching so well that I got a grant and went to college.
But she was over 50 years old by then. She went to college when she was over 50 years old and then taught and worked in the public school system until she was 84 years old. Wow. Through all of this, shortly after you became involved with Al-Anon, it was about 40 years ago that you saw something in the paper about truth, a lesson in truth. It turned out to be Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth. And it was during that time that Jane went and met with some of the people who were first founding the seeds of this church. We celebrate our 40-year anniversary next year, 2012. Well, Jane Tinker was one of the first people who helped found this group, followed it from year to year. She and one other couple. Who were the other couple?
Zions.
She and the Zions.
George and Mary Zion.
Jane and George and Mary Zion literally put their house up for collateral for the church to buy its first property years ago. So when we celebrate mothers today, I can't think of anyone that is more fitting than to celebrate you, Miss Jane Tinker. Would you please join me in celebrating? And now, last but not least, Jane's going to begin next week teaching a class here. She works with doctors now. Trying to get appointments with this lady is unbelievable. She's busier than I am. She has so many meetings. She works with doctors to help them know how to take care of the seniors in the area. There's so many things that she does. She's an incredible writer, a metaphysics student, and Jane wrote something to me which is quite beautiful.
I am an artist. I take the raw substance of life, shape it and mold it into the environment within which I dwell. My attitudes and thinking shape it and form it. I can choose to create a heaven or construct a hell. I am constrained by old thinking, pushed by new thought. What do I keep? What do I add? What makes for good? What makes for bad? It is a battle well fought. Listen to my inner voice, always changing, always renewing. Here, there, will it fit? Make the choice. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. The beginning is the dying. The dying is the beginning. I am an artist.